Going, everybody? Thank you very much for hanging out with me for a little bit. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic horror movie review. This is my review of Friday the 13th from 1980 from director Sean S. Cunningham. This movie begins at Camp Crystal Lake, 1958. It is a full moon. It is a dark night. There's a group of teenage camp counselors sitting around a campfire singing Kumbaya. A couple of these camp counselors are giving each other the come hither stare. And so they sneak off into a barn where they try to be alone, and then somebody follows them in there, sees what they're doing, doesn't approve, and then we have our opening kill, the first kill of the film, and then we get the iconic title card with some great violin music from Henry Manfredini, who scored many of the films in this series. Those of you that are fans of the Pink Panther films from the 60s, the Peter Sellers films, you will recognize his music because he did the music for those films. He did the Pink Panther theme, and his music is iconic to this day. I love hearing it on repeat around this spooky holiday season. So we get past the opening credits, and then we get to present day 1980, which is when the film came out, where we meet Annie, who is hitchhiking on her way to her new job at Camp Crystal Lake because she has a job as the cook there. She is at this little eatery where she sees some people there, and she asks for a ride. There's a nice enough guy that offers to give her a lift. On their way to the car or truck, they meet Crazy Ralph, who is pretty much here to tell everybody that they're doomed. Anybody that's on their way to Camp Crystal Lake, he's there to make sure that they know they're doomed, because that's the warning. And so, yeah, he's the "you're all doomed" guy. And then after we say goodbye to Crazy Ralph, who pops up again later on in the series, uh, they're on this ride, and the guy giving her the ride is nice enough to tell her, you should probably just turn back. And Annie says, you sound just like your crazy friend Ralph back there. And then he says, well, maybe, but back in the day, there was a bunch of fires. Somebody drowned back in '57. They tried to reopen, and the water was bad. And so he tells her a bunch of stuff that should discourage her, or anybody would discourage anybody. But she's so damn upbeat and like happy and perky. And she says, screw it, I'll be all right. And he's like, yeah, this dumb kid. And she just kind of just brushes it off because she's that kind of person. And then we meet the rest of the cast. We meet a young Kevin Bacon, who is among the young people that have been hired to help get the camp ready for reopening. He's pretty good in this movie for a very young Kevin Bacon. I believe this was after Animal House and just before he did Barry Levinson's Diner in 1981. So yeah, he's not bad. He's okay. He's just starting out. Young Kevin Bacon. So he's all right. And everybody else in the movie is okay. The acting in this film, it's not Oscar caliber acting. The performances are from like weak to okay to serviceable. But all the people, as far as like the main cast, all the characters that are there to be slaughtered towards the end of the movie, they're all a lot of fun, and I really like their chemistry. And even though they're very amateur as far as like the acting goes, very amateurish, the chemistry feels real authentic. And at times you can feel that maybe they're improvising because some moments actually feel pretty damn like real in terms of their interaction. So something makes me think that maybe they weren't saying lines, maybe they were doing a little improvising, just the way certain scenes come off, like the scenes where they're hanging out, which can be some of the fun moments in the film. And these are the kind of moments that make me sort of care about these characters. And then when they start to get off towards the third act, I'm a little sorry to see them go, because I was having fun with these cats. And you got the jokey one, the one that jokes too much. You got a couple of hotties there. Of course, it's a Friday the 13th movie, so you're gonna have that. There's gonna be that gratuitous nudity that these movies are known for. I love the setting. I love just the atmosphere. I love just that early '80s, late '70s feel. The kills in these films are very creative. You get all kinds of different methods as far as how people go, the way people are killed, how they go out. Somebody gets a little archery action. Of course, the machete, of course, your basic knife, some off-screen kills, some real surprising, kills like from out of nowhere, some nice little jump scares. And this film has one of the most iconic jump scares of all time. This movie isn't super, super bloody or even as graphic as they tend to get these days, because, this was sort of the beginning of all that. It was just starting. And plus, nowadays with the CGI, they can do all kinds of things. But for me personally, I love the days of practical effects and the days of Tom Savini. Tom Savini is a makeup effects artist wizard who has been involved with a lot of films, including some zombie films from back in the day, movies like Dawn of the Dead from George Romero. Those of you that are familiar with the work of Robert Rodriguez, he has a small part in From Dusk Till Dawn. He played Sex Machine in that film, and he's just a legend in the business. And he's one of those guys, if I see his name on the credits of a horror movie, I get really excited if I know that he's the one that did the makeup effects. And so, yeah, all the credit in the world to Tom Savini. This movie does have a slower pace than maybe a lot of you are used to. And if some of you just kind of want things to happen every 5 minutes, like a kill every few minutes, this is not going to be that film, because for the most part, we get an opening kill and then we get one maybe towards the end of the first act. But for a lot of the second act, it's mostly just hanging out with the characters while they're just kind of having fun, getting this camp ready. And we do get a lot of hint at danger. There is this feel of somebody watching them, because throughout the film, somebody's constantly stalking these guys. These people. But yeah, the most of the mayhem and carnage, it all happens towards the third act as people start to sort of wind down for their last night there. Well, what ends up being their last night, and as it's getting dark, that final night that they're there. And the person who ends up being the final girl of the film is someone by the name of Adrianne King, who is pretty good in the movie, but her performance could have been a lot better. And because she ends up being the final girl, the movie, as far as rating goes, I would have rated it a little higher if her performance was just a tad stronger. But she ends up having to carry the third act of the film, and so since that part pretty much rests on her shoulders, and the acting could be better in my opinion, it just brings it down just a slight notch. But for the most part, she does a fairly good job, and I really do like how the conclusion wraps up, because there's a really epic mano a mano between her and the one that's doing all the killing at the end of this movie. I love the cinematography in this movie, because all the POV stuff when characters are being watched or followed, it makes me sort of feel sometimes like I need to look over my shoulder, and it has that nice sense of paranoia that you want with building tension and suspense. And this movie does great at doing that. And I really love the music score. Like I said, I love just how they execute the kills in these films, especially this one, of course. I just really dig the work, the special effects makeup by Tom Savini, and really good direction by Sean Cunningham, who will always be a horror legend for having his name on something like this, and of course having his credit on The Last House on the Left as a writer-producer on that film with Wes Craven. And this is just one of those movies that I will be watching every October, every year, until the end of time. This movie and a lot of the films from this series are a lot of fun to watch with a large group of people with a few drinks and have some good laughs and a good time. To me, this movie is a horror classic, and if the acting was better, then I would definitely give it a 4-star rating. But because the acting is questionable, for me, it marks it down a bit, so I give it 3.5 stars. But either way, it's one of my favorite slasher horror movies of all time, and highly recommend Friday the 13th from 1980. I did see it on streaming. I believe I saw it on HBO Max, but every now and then things get taken off and moved to other streaming services and switched around. And I'm always telling people, if you want to get your hard copies, they're out there. This is my box set of all the films, including Freddy vs. Jason and the 2009 remake. I freaking love this thing. This thing is, it's one of those things that if I have to run out of the house and my house is on fire, I'm running into the house, grabbing the kids, and I'm grabbing this, because this is one of my kids, basically. Mwah! I love this baby. But yes, Friday the 13th from 1980. That's how we do it. So, gonna wrap this up. Thank you very much for watching this classic movie review. And please don't forget to like, hit that bell, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And look out for notifications on more classic movie reviews coming your way all throughout this month talking more classic horror movies with y'all. And please don't forget to comment if you've seen any of these movies. What are some of your favorite Friday the 13th films? And if you haven't seen this film, if you plan on checking it out, and if you are into the horror slasher genre in general, which is your favorite slasher horror film? And please don't forget to also share if you want to share, and don't forget to look out for the next one. Thank you very much, and don't forget, take care of each other. Happy Halloween.